Hey guys, welcome back to F.O.E. This is episode 4 and we're here talking about speaking your truth. Episode 4 today is a little bit of a mixed basket of things. We've been talking about positive manifestation in episode 3. We've talked about what is even your truth, understanding your truth in episode 1 and 2. This episode is really digging deeper. It's getting down to some of the darker sides of ourselves so that we can become more self-aware in our behavior, in our interactions, in the patterns that we form in relationships. It's about coming into your own truth about who you really are and what it is that you need to face so that we can break some of those patterns, so that we can face some of those darker truths, and that we can not necessarily completely heal them, but acknowledge them and choose which way we want to go. So there's a few theories out there when it comes to psychology, and I'm no psychologist, so please bear with me. I am just a civilian going through life, wanting to share my journey with you. I read a little bit about Carl Jung, who talks about the shadow self and being able to face that, and the need to be able to understand the shadow self. What that is. You want to know what that is? It's the parts of us we don't want to share with anyone else. It's the parts of us that we hide. It's the parts of us we know we're a bit of ashamed about, and then maybe we never ever let anyone know that we're like that. Okay? So it's not necessarily just pure negativity. Sometimes it's just what we're not willing for people to see, okay? But we, as people, actually are somewhat aware of this. And those who are really self-aware of this work a lot with their shadow self on a daily. So it could be as simple as, I have anger management issues. I'm quick to anger. I get in the car, someone cuts me off, I will rip their heads off. So I get out of my car and I beat them. It's a common thing. If that is a part of your shadow self and you know it and you're aware of it, it's about working with that part of you to make better choices. You may not be able to heal your anger completely and entirely. You may not be able to eradicate that from your personality and your behavior, but you can certainly learn how to manage it. But you can't learn to manage it if you can't acknowledge it and you can't accept it about yourself, okay? So this is deeper than that even. That's just one really, really basic example of what people may struggle with when it comes to their darker side, when it comes to their shadow self, things that they're not really proud of, but they do, and that don't really know how to cope with that, right? I'm talking about speaking your truth in this series, and a part of that is acknowledging all aspects of you. It's acknowledging the insecurities. It's acknowledging the trauma. It's acknowledging the fact that you do need to actually heal. And it's acknowledging the dark parts. Okay, so trauma is something that we all have. We all have it in our lifetimes. We grew up with it. We've all had something that's happened to us that we've lived through, that we've witnessed, that we've been told to feel or think or whatever it is, right? But we as an adult, as a people, we get to choose whether we're going to accept that as a part of our ongoing truth or whether we're going to release it. So healing is about acknowledgement, working with that trauma, being prepared to let go of that trauma and releasing it. That's one element, okay? If we don't do that body of work, that healing work, that acknowledgement work, that awareness work about all the good and the bad and all the trauma and all the healing requirements, we literally suppress and repress all of that stuff. And we think that by not acknowledging it, we think that by not working with it and by not speaking about it with somebody that you trust, it could be somebody you pay to speak to, like a psychologist. It could be your best friend. It could be anybody, right? If we aren't allowing ourselves to go through the motions of healing, awareness, acknowledgement, letting go, we suppress and we hold all of that inside of us. Now, the negative aspects of doing that is, one, if you're not facing your shadow self, you don't really know yourself that well, you don't really understand, or you're not willing to, you will continue to do the same things over and over again. You cannot grow. You cannot change. You cannot move forward. You will continue to create the same patterns and do the same thing and make the same mistakes and have the same feelings of that dark side of you forever. If you do not address trauma or the things in you, in your past, in your childhood, the things that are happening right now in this very day, yesterday, the day before, whatever, if we are not looking at those things and addressing them and seeking to heal them, we will carry them and we will wear them and they will become us and they will define us. Now, some people I have met in my lifetime say, I can just switch off. I can just put that behind me. I can just turn my brain off and I don't think about it anymore. I'm like, I don't quite understand that because that's not how my brain works. But I do also know from my experience of being in their lives that yes, they can do that, but it always sneaks up on them. Something always creeps. Put in a position where some memory is triggered or something happens, it triggers them, and then there's a response to that trauma. And that response necessarily isn't the greatest thing for us as a person because we haven't dealt with it. We're not empowered by it. We're no longer in charge of it. So it becomes in charge of us and we lose control and then we end up giving into that thing. So that's why healing, recognition, acknowledgement, acceptance, letting go, facing your dark self, all of that is a part of the journey of being able to speak your truth. The deep knowing, being able to, I guess, address life head first without being scared of what might be around the corner or without that oh, if I go there, I might be triggered. If I go here, he might upset me and I might be upset again and I'm triggered and I might react a certain way or I might say something inappropriately. If I go there, I might end up, whatever. We all have our thing, okay? We all have the thing that sets us off, the thing that triggers us, the thing that, we don't want to share with each other about ourselves. Here I am, I'm doing a podcast of empowerment and self-love and acceptance and all that sort of stuff, right? But, 12 months ago, I was in a ditch in life. I was completely broken by life, completely broken by relationship, completely broken by the actions of someone else that I had accepted over and over again, to the point where that became my truth, that I ended up somehow accepting constant lies and constant deceit and constant cheating and constant just crap from a human being because I loved them and I cared about them more than I cared about myself. And that was a trigger. It triggered everything in me. It triggered all my dark side. It triggered all my shadow self. It triggered all the things that I was afraid to acknowledge as a person, and the public could now see it. So I was ashamed. I was ashamed by, wow, I have legitimately become the thing I didn't want to become. The woman that would accept all of this in her life from somebody else. So I started a journey of just repairing my inner truth, repairing my self-worth, repairing my self-love, repairing me, repairing the things in my life, rebuilding friendships, creating new bonds, doing a spirituality journey, getting grounded, spending alone time so that I knew how to be alone, so I wasn't afraid of that thing that scared me the most, which was not having anybody, so I'd accept any kind of behavior. This was my rock bottom, my absolute rock bottom as a person. And I don't blame other people for this. I don't blame the relationship. I don't blame him. I don't blame my ex-husband for the things he did. I don't blame anybody. I acknowledge them. I acknowledge their actions, and I acknowledge what they did, and I acknowledge how they made me feel. But what I do is I also acknowledge that I, as a person, was willing to accept that kind of treatment and that kind of behavior for years because I hadn't done any work on me. So I'm sharing this with you because this was a part of getting to know me and my self-worth, which was a part of my dark side, not my light side until recently. It was about me being more open and honest about who I really was and what I really needed, and being free and happy to express that to someone I knew that probably would never, ever, ever want to give that to me. And it was being prepared for the rejection and the feeling that came with it so that I could walk away when I needed to. And this is a part of me that I am truly proud of today. 12 months ago, I was embarrassed by her. 12 months on, I'm truly proud of her because I am standing firm in myself. I know what I'm worth. I know that I'm amazing. I know that I have so much to offer somebody. And that relationship highlighted a lot of things for me. I want you to start looking at yourself the way I had to. Dive a little bit deeper. Look at some of the things that trigger you in life. Look at some of the things that are a bit darker for you in life. The secrets, the things that maybe your wife or your husband or your friends or your sister or your brother, or your mother or your father don't know about you. The little voice inside your head that tells you things that you know about you and you hide. And think about whether you need to work with that person, that dark side of you, and how to go about that. That if there's aspects of you want to change from a negative to a positive, right? You may not be able to completely get rid of that dark side, and I don't really necessarily think anybody should. It's not about eradicating the shadow self. It's about knowing it and being aware of it and doing what you want with it, I think, essentially. And deciding what person you want to be. Do you want the shadow self to overwrite your light? I chose for my shadow self to be exactly that, just in the shadow. I know it, I see it, I acknowledge it, I'm working with it, but I choose to do the light work. I choose to be more positive. I choose to not run back to the same scenario again and again and again, ever again. And I hope that by sharing this journey, by sharing this little bit of truth about me and my journey more recently, that it encourages you guys to do the same, that it is possible. It is possible to get out of the relationships where you have toxicity and that you accept the toxicity for you because you feel like you can't get out. It's okay. It's okay. I totally get it. There is no judgment here. At the end of the day, we all accept certain things for ourselves. We accept certain treatment and behavior for ourselves for whatever reason. And a lot of it is because of the things that we don't believe about ourselves. And I'm here to say to you today, if you can start this journey, if you can start to speak to yourself kinder, be a little bit softer with your dark self, identify those shadow parts of you, work with yourself, even if it's in the quiet, even if it's in a journal, even if you're, when you're by yourself, you can write down some things and figure out who you really are and what are the things you need and how do I get to that. Working with your shadow self will help you. It'll help you acknowledge the things that are currently going on for you. It'll acknowledge your triggers. It'll acknowledge your behavioral patterns. And then you get to choose which way you want to go with it. This is a little bit heavier than the other ones, but it's needed. I am no expert. I can only speak from my own journey, my own experiences, and my own research and understanding of some of the other theories, such as Carl Jung in Working with Your Shadow Self. He talks about shadow work in a community aspect as well and how it's dangerous. There's lots of theories out there. This is just one element that I really do resonate with. And I wanted to share that with you guys, that sometimes our shadow self is why we accept mistruths about who we are, what we do, what we're worth, what we should and shouldn't accept. Sometimes it's because of those elements that we aren't in healthy relationships, that we don't have healthy foundations within our families. So here I am, signing out. Work with your shadow self, see what you come up with. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to speak to me about working with my shadow self and how that impacted me more, happy to share. Drop a comment in the video. Happy to take any questions. Thanks, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.